Well, hey there, Mama, and welcome back to the Moms Overcoming Overwhelm podcast, episode number 166. I'm Emily McDermott, and I'm here beside you on this journey as we work together to declutter your home, head, and heart. I know that I've been having a lot of interviews lately, but I will tell you today's episode, I am so psyched for you to listen to because honestly, I can't even believe that I just had it. I am talking today with Kendra Adachi from the Lazy Genius podcast. She also is the New York Times best-selling author of The Lazy Genius Way, The Lazy Genius Kitchen, and The Plan, which is what we're going to be talking about on the show today. And she is an expert in compassionate time management. We're going to talk in the episode about what that means. And she helps others stop doing it all for the sake of doing what matters. She lives in North Carolina with her husband and 3 kids. I have been following Kendra, reading her books, listening to her podcast for several years now. So I'm so thrilled that she decided to come onto the show. And if you have a love-hate relationship with planning, if you feel like you're constantly failing all the time when it comes to planning, perhaps you try to get excited about getting your new planner, but then you realize it's just going to end up in the planner graveyard with all the other planners that you never use, then today's episode is definitely for you. We talk about how our goal should not be greatness, but rather integration, the importance of learning to pivot rather than learning how to plan. And also why we might feel like failures, given the fact that most productivity literature that's out there is written by men who have very different perspectives than us. And also they don't go through menstrual cycles and all of these things that impact our energy and our focus and everything else. So I am just so excited for you to listen to this episode today. So what do you say? Grab the notebook and pen and let's dive into today's conversation with Kendra Adachi. Hey there, Mama. Are you tired of all the stuff crowding your home, calendar, and mind? Do you wish you could say goodbye to the endless to-do list running around in your head? Want to declutter but don't know where to start? You're in the right place. Welcome to Moms Overcoming Overwhelm, where you will find proven and practical solutions to declutter your home, head, and heart. Hi, I'm Emily, a wife, boy mom, and simplicity seeker. I struggled to get pregnant and felt overwhelmed until I discovered decluttering could create the physical and emotional space I needed to become a mom. Now, 2 kids later, I've transformed my life and motherhood by developing simple systems around decluttering, capsule wardrobes, kid stuff, cleaning and tidying, meal planning, time management, and more, and I can't wait to share them with you. If you're ready to reclaim the time and energy you crave, be present with your kids, and finally enjoy the life and motherhood you so deserve, let's kick overwhelm to the curb, shall we? Grab your lukewarm coffee, your notebook and pen, and clear off some counter space. Let's do this. Well, hey, Kendra, thank you so much for coming on the Moms Overcoming Overwhelm podcast. I am beyond thrilled to talk to you today.
I'm happy to be here, Emily. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, of course. So I'm not going to say I'm a Lazy Genius OG. I'm not an LG OG. I found you in like 2020, so right
Yeah.
after Lazy Genius Way. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I need in my life because I'm similar to you, recovering perfectionist. And I kind of enjoy the concept of planning and projects. But then when I actually try to do them, I get really overwhelmed.
Sure.
And so I was just so glad that I found you. And then Lazy Genius Kitchen was awesome. And I use brainless crowd pleasers all the time in my meal planning. And then when I, get the email like, oh, Kendra has a new book and it's about planning. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need this. And we were just talking before hitting record, like we want sometimes the tangible, like, oh my gosh, like who is going to help me tackle my to-do list? Like who is going to help me actually use this planner that's been gathering dust since, June or whatever.
Or if you're like me, a stack of 7 of them.
the planner graveyard, yes, as it is.
We all have a planner graveyard.
And then when I actually started reading it, it was like, oh, it's not so much what we want, but it's what we actually need. And what we need is like the self-compassion piece. What we need is someone to tell us like, you're not doing it wrong. You're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. Yeah. It's like the system around us and the culture around us has made us think that something is wrong with us
That's
when
right.
there's actually not. So,
There's not.
for anyone living under a rock that doesn't know who you are, could you please just introduce yourself and tell us about you and your family, like how you serve women and what you like to do for fun, just plain old
Oh,
fun?
yeah, yeah. Well, yes. Okay, so my name is Kendra. My name is Kendra Adachi. My husband's Japanese. People often ask, like, what's the deal with your last name? My husband's Japanese. I've been married to him for I don't even know how many years now. 22, maybe, 3, 4, 4. Oh, I can't figure out the math, but a long time, over 20 years. And we have 3 kids, and we live in Greensboro, North Carolina, which is where I was born. My husband actually moved here with his family from Japan when he was 2.
Mm,
So this is also home. It's just we have really deep roots here and
yeah.
really love it. So I started the Lazy Genius Collective in 2015, right before my third kid was born. And the whole idea of that is to be a genius about the things that matter and lazy about the things that don't. To you, you get to
Hmm.
decide. And we have sort of expanded that a little into thinking about, well, it's not just what matters, but it's what matters in your season of life.
Yeah.
Right. And now we're even moving into the expansion of like, and also, we didn't realize how many people were telling us what should matter and why. And we're starting to kind of dismantle that a little bit. And so that's my current work. And what I do for fun. It's the most boring answer. I read for fun.
You read a
I
lot.
I read a lot. I was watching Bake Off yesterday during my lunch
Hmm.
break, and one of the contestants, he made like books out of cake or cake out of books. No, books out of cake. No, that's wrong. That'd be terrible. Cake out of books. He made cake books, and he was saying like, "Oh, I read so much. I read 50 books last year, which is a lot of books.
Yeah.
That's a lot of books." And I was like, "Oh, I've read 110 already, and it's like still October." I went, "Dude, I read a lot." Like, it kind of hit me when he said that because that was a
Yeah.
big number. So that's what I do for fun. It's just it makes me relax. I like having something that engages my brain without making it work too hard
Yeah.
because my brain already works like really hard all the time. So it's better than just like turning it off completely. And stories and writing are just way too fun. So
Yeah.
yeah, reading's my favorite thing.
Yeah, every time I'm reading your lazy letter, it's like, in Gmail, it's like view entire message.
I
And I usually I get to like the book part and I'm like, oh, I got to go to view entire message because Kendra read so much this
Oh
month.
my
And
gosh, that's what happens. It always makes us laugh as a team
yeah.
internally, where it's like it's a view entire message newsletter.
That's good though. That's good. And yes, I have several friends. I think the correct term is bibliophile when you were a lover of books. That's
Nice.
my big word of the day. But yeah, I'm more of like an audiobook while I walk type of girl. So
Yeah,
I'm like, it
yeah.
counts. It totally
Oh, it
counts.
100% counts. It 100% counts. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so I am so excited to dive into the plan, but not necessarily like the tactical stuff, like the 3 things that must be on your to-do list, because it's not this kind of book, people. If you haven't read it. And I was talking to you before we hit record about how, like, when the Lazy Genius Way came out, I started implementing the 13 Lazy Genius principles, but some more than others. Like, decide once. Oh my gosh, we talk about decision fatigue all the time here. Asking the magic question, setting those house rules, everything in its place. Come on, I do decluttering. I love
That's
those.
right.
But then when I was reading this one, and you're saying, oh, well, the ones we're going to focus on here are more go in the right order. I'm horrible at that. Starting small, I get overwhelmed easily. Live in your season. I've struggled with that too. And being kind to yourself. Oh my gosh, that's what I struggle with the absolute most. And you have this framework of just like built on a foundation of self-compassion and anti-hustle and resting instead of striving and all of these things that seem very like not your normal productivity paradigm.
It's true.
And, this is kind of like planner season, right? So it's like, okay,
Yeah.
let's get our planners. And
Yeah.
I really, part of me, the back to school supply lover is like, yay, planners. And then the other part of me is like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to set goals and fail. Like that's what's
Yeah.
going to happen. And so I would love it if you can explain like this failure, this feeling like a failure because we're living in this culture that is built on productivity paradigm that is not necessarily geared towards women at all.
Yeah.
Can you kind of unpack how you talk about that in the book,
Yeah.
please?
So it's so fascinating because once I explain things, and those of you listening, like you're just going to start seeing it everywhere. I feel like once the veil is pulled off, you're like, holy moly, how did I miss this for so long? But there are three main reasons why this book is different from other time management books, and really this way of seeing this paradigm is different than
Mhm.
other time management books. Well, the first one is I'm a lady, and most, and I mean really most, 93% of time management books are written by men. And women have a lot more invisible stuff on their plates and in their lives than men traditionally do. Not always, not exclusively, but that's fairly common. And men don't have periods. Men, like they're just missing a lot of things. And so it's not that what the men in the books have been saying has been wrong.
Mhm.
It's just very incomplete. It's very incomplete for the lived experience of most women who are juggling so much, and probably at a time when we are dealing with our own like bodies changing and
Mhm.
perimenopause and like stressful, like am I going to choose to try to extend my career, am I going to level up in my career? And also, like, I have children who are anywhere from needing to learn how to use the bathroom in an actual toilet to driving a car. Like, what do we do? I mean, it's just so much. It's so much. So that's the first thing that's different, is this is written by a woman with women in mind.
Mhm.
The second thing that's different, those books really tend to start in the future. Planners do the same thing. You
Yeah.
know, there's this idea of, okay, what do you want your life to look like in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? And then you create this categorized plan with, these bucketed goals, and you reverse engineer
Mhm.
those goals. And that is how you spend today. That is what you do now. That is your life now, is working towards those goals. And if that is the primary starting place, if the end result is our primary starting place, but we actually might not even fully know what that end result is, it might not really matter right now. And if we have to set aside those programmed, engineered pieces that are supposed to happen today in service of the actual urgency of
Mhm.
today, we always feel behind. Always, like always. And that's exhausting. And then the third difference is, so I'm a woman, and it's written
Mhm.
for women in mind. We are starting with today, not with the future. Not that you can't pay attention to the future, but it's not where we start. And then the third difference is the other books, and really our culture in general, is, I don't want to say obsessed, but kind of obsessed with greatness, with optimization and mastery. Everything is about 10xing your life and leveling up your life. And that also is its own version of exhaustion. And so I would like to offer an alternative, which is, rather than having our goal be greatness and seeing everything through that lens of like, how can I make the most of today? How can today be the best day possible? How can I optimize the potential of today and not waste it? How can today be built on tomorrow that builds on the next today that leads to this invisible, and you can feel the mechanics of it. It's so
Mhm.
exhausting. What if instead our goal was like, can I just be like a person today? Can I be integrated and with myself? Can I be whole and with all the parts, whether I'm stressed, whether I'm sad, whether I'm excited, whether it's probably all of them kind of at once? Like, what if our goal shifted from greatness to integration to just being a person where we are? That changes literally everything.
Mhm.
It changes everything. And that's what I mean when you start to, as we talk about it and reading the plan, like you just start to see it everywhere. It's like when you say something to a friend about, I like dolphins, and then your Instagram ads are like full of dolphin products or whatever. It's that kind of thing. You're going to be like, how did I miss this? Like it's literally
Yeah.
all over the place. And it's such a relief to me. Like it's just, it doesn't have to be the choice for everyone. Some people really want to choose greatness, and that's okay. Some people love, you know, working towards their goals. If they're not moving toward a goal, then their life feels like a waste. That's
Mhm.
not for me to tell them they're wrong. They get to choose. We all get to choose. But there's not a very robust alternative to that for the rest
Yeah.
of us.
Yeah.
And so I tried to make a robust alternative to that.
And you did. I
Yeah.
was actually on a podcast interview yesterday about habits, and I had one of those the veil has been lifted moments. And I go, when you think about the people that have written about habits, I love James Clear, but you got,
Yeah, he's great.
James Clear, you got like, BJ Fogg, Charles Duhigg, they're
Yeah.
all men,
They're all men.
And
Yeah.
so then it's like, okay, well, the habits and me being able to feel like I'm accomplishing or 10xing my life or whatever, because I'm able to make these habits routines and stick with them. And if I don't, like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
Even just looking at like women's cycles, which you do a beautiful job in the book of kind of explaining like the menstrual cycle and how that works with the different components of the plan framework. But it's like if they're working on a 24-hour hormone cycle and we're working
Mm.
on a 28-day hormone
Day.
cycle,
I
it's
know.
just like so different. But I will say, like, this idea of integration versus greatness, and also you talk about like feeling fragmented. And
Mm.
I feel fragmented almost every day because you can
Yeah.
just working from home, looking around your home at all of the things that need to be done. And why am I not doing this? And I don't have the energy for this. And what's wrong with me? And then you throw in social media and looking what everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
But then we're like, in our mind, like you said, it's like, oh, we have to be reverse engineering and we have to be like crushing our day and we have to be focusing. I hate that, like
I'm
crushing.
so tired of crushing everything. I'm like, guys, can we all calm down? We don't need to crush stuff. We
We
just
don't need to
chill.
crush it.
It's all gonna be
Exactly.
fine. It's all gonna be fine.
Oh my gosh. But I think that like part of it, the self-compassion and being, and I do want to talk about kind of the pyramid, the
Yeah, sure.
polyhedron faces of the pyramid.
Yep. Yep.
But how it's all the self-compassion is all there and the being in the present moment, which I really struggle with.
Mm.
And so I was wondering if we could talk just a bit about like the prepare and adjust and notice phases, because you mentioned in your book that like, it's learning to pivot, which I had to do just before this interview. Learning to pivot's more important than learning to plan. You could plan all you want,
Yeah.
but then it's like, oh, okay, this is happening in this moment. I need to adjust. I need to notice how I'm feeling. So, can you talk about those
Yeah.
phases and kind of how, like, I guess the pivoting fits in there too?
Yeah. So one of the things that makes one of the measurements of greatness that we're taught is it's kind of a set it and forget it
Mhm.
mentality. You know, you like, yeah, you make your list of habits, you kind of build your systems and your routines, and you really should be able to press the button and just keep rolling. And anything that comes up, well, you have to stick to the plan. You have to work the plan. You have to be disciplined with your habits. And there's just this linear, unforgiving nature to the measurement of greatness. And life isn't that way, like, especially for women.
Mhm.
And if you throw kids in there, if you throw moms in there, it's like, good gracious. Like, it's it's just so much all the time. It is terribly fragmenting where your attention is pulled in so many directions. You have so many things that you're trying to remember, all the balls in the air, et cetera, et cetera. So what I love about the framework that I present in the plan, which I call the plan pyramid, which it technically is a tetrahedron, and
Oh,
that's okay.
tetrahedron. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, no, no. No, I was saying to the people, it's like it's not a pyramid. You just put any fancy longer word. I'm like, it's that other thing, but
Right.
pyramid is easier to say. So we're just doing pyramid. But the framework, the plan pyramid is meant to kind of recalibrate our expectations of how we look at events and tasks and decisions and attention
Mhm.
on a daily basis. And so the essential, there are different principles for each of the letters and all of that, which you can find in the plan. But the essential nature of this framework is if you throw a triangle on the ground, okay, we got a triangle on the ground, that's the base of our pyramid.
Mhm.
The base of everything is what matters to you in your current season of life. The other frameworks and systems, again, they're looking at your entire life as one
Mhm.
entity, that everything is moving you towards this goal that you have far, far in the future. And again, that's just not realistic or practical or sustainable in any way. So instead, we base everything on what matters right now in this season that I'm in. It
Mhm.
could be an extensive season, of like, well, I'm a stay-at-home, work-at-home mom, and I have toddlers, and it's going to be a while until everybody gets into elementary school. But even then, that's still a pretty long season. So it could be that you break it down, it's the summer at home with
Yeah.
those people, or it's the holidays at home with those people, or it's, we're about to move and transition into a new job or a new city or a new home or new schools or new, anything. So we begin with what matters to us, to me right now in this season. Because even, Emily, if you and I were in the exact same season, if our lives looked out on paper
Mhm.
exactly the same, what matters to each of us would look different. It would
Yeah.
still be different. So you name your season, but you also need to go like, okay, what's really, really important here for us
Mhm.
right now? Okay. Not through a lens of greatness, not through what you should be doing or what is measurable, but what is making you and your people feel whole?
Mhm.
What gives your life wholeness and fullness right now? So let's name that. Okay. So that's the base of the pyramid. Then the three sides of it, the three equal triangles that lean on each other in like equal measure, are three letters of the PLAN acronym, because PLAN is an acronym, which is so fun.
Yay.
It's the PANN:
Mhm.
prepare, adjust, and notice. And then the point of the pyramid and of life is live. It's
Yeah.
the L in plan. It is to live. Our whole point here is we want to live. We want to live today. We want to we want to enjoy our lives like just a little bit more than we endure them. But also we can be kind when we're in a really long endurance season.
Mhm.
If you have a chronic illness, if you have an aging parent, if you have mental illness, like there are a lot of things that make life feel like we're just enduring it and we just are just trying to get through. But if you look through that season of life with a lens of greatness, you're going to feel like it's a waste. You're going to feel like you're behind. You're going to feel like a failure because you're not leveling up. You're not building your todays towards this future. That if instead you look at a kind of an endurance season as we're going to be kind here. We're going to be honest about how frustrating and hard and sad this is. We're going to not expect ourselves to hit the standards or
Mhm.
make the same choices that we would in a season that is more enjoyable than something we're trying to endure. Like it just changes the lens of all of that. So that's how we want to live, right? We want to live where we are as we are and be present in that place. Now, the thing that is so valuable and so important about the three sides about prepare, adjust, and notice. And it goes to the question you asked about pivoting. The industry teaches us only to prepare. That's all it is. That's all the books we read are. It's about preparation. Okay. It's so inflated. And it that does a couple of things. First, it makes it so we think that if our plan does not happen, then it and we are a failure.
Right.
Like the whole point is to create a plan that works. That's what we're taught. That's what we've been taught so far. And I'm saying, no, 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 no. You still prepare. Like preparing is really important, but it is just as important as adjusting in the moment, as pivoting, as being like, you know what? I decided that we were going to have this for dinner. I'm too tired, or we're too stressed out, or things, no, we're just going to switch it. It doesn't mean that you failed at meal planning and you need
Yeah.
to create a new system. You needed to adjust. That is a valuable skill. It is just as important as preparing. The same is true of noticing. Like we move so quickly,
Mhm.
we we kind of forget the like living, breathing life that we're in. Like it just sort of becomes like we're inside of a machine
Mhm.
instead of inside of our lives. And that's because we're not noticing where we are. And part of that is like noticing pretty things like, birds and flowers and sun and whatever. Those are great. But it's also noticing like, hey, I made this, I did this plan, I did this preparation. Is this working?
Mhm.
It's noticing your body. It's noticing how you're feeling about something and honoring the wisdom of your body. So the what's wild to me and makes me so happy about this pyramid is there are so many people that I run into who are like, I just don't, is this book for me? I'm not much of a planner. Like I'm just not
Mhm.
very organized. And what the current system has done is it has devalued people who are naturally gifted at adjusting,
Yeah.
who are naturally gifted at noticing. Those skills are just as important and necessary as preparation, as preparing. So for those who are naturally inclined to preparation, I am one of those people.
Mhm.
That's just how I've always been wired. But guess what? If my plan falls apart before I started to like go to therapy and learn all this stuff, if my plan fell apart, you do not get in my way. Like, no,
Me
ma'am.
too.
So mean. So mean. And yet people who are noticing the face of their kid as they're starting to unravel a little bit and
Yeah.
go, oh, I'm freaking him out a little bit. Like this is not that I want that.
Mhm.
That is just as valuable because guess what? Through a lens of integration and wholeness from your own perspective as a person and maybe for your family as well, caring for your kid in an unsettled time is so much more important than following through with a plan. Greatness would tell us to stick with the plan. Integration tells us pay attention to this person in front of you or pay attention to yourself in front of you. So I love this framework so much because I feel like it expands what planning is to a place it should be, to a
Yeah.
place it should be expanded to, and invites everyone in. And it's like, you don't have to be good at this thing. None of us are good at all three at planning, at preparing, adjusting, and noticing. No one is like, yeah, like inherently super, super equipped to do all three.
Mhm.
And so we can learn from each other. We can know like our partner. I had a conversation with some people yesterday about yeah, she was saying like I'm a preparer and he is an adjuster.
Oh.
And so it was like that. And I said, I bet you guys get a lot done. I bet you can like handle a crisis. People call you in a crisis. They're like, yes, that's exactly what happened. And I said, and then the work then, the next
Mhm.
practice for you after that is for both of you to kind of pool your noticing because you might not have a lot. But between the two of you, I was like, you're not a very nostalgic couple, are you? And she was like, how did you know that? So there is such value in all three. Everyone listening, like your ability to pivot, even if you have not used a planner in 5 years,
Mhm.
even if your to-do lists are like on random sticky notes stuck inside books and you don't even know what you're supposed to do, you don't even know what day it is, that does not mean you're bad at planning. It means preparation is not your natural skill,
Yeah.
but adjusting is, and that's just as important.
Yeah, and I love how you said like the balance of the three are so important because I also err on the side of the preparation and to the point where I'm like, no, this must happen. And then it's sort of at the expense of my kids and their feelings or my husband. And he definitely is more, I think, of the adjuster too. And one of the quotes you had in your newsletter that came out yesterday, which I'll put in the show notes how people can join the newsletter since it's really great. But this really spoke to my heart. And you say, when we live life like it's one long checklist, that we miss this kind of stuff. And you had kind of what was happening in October. Very few people put drink the most satisfying Dr. Pepper after a fun but long day of being a present parent on their to-do list. But that's one of the most memorable things that happened in October. So much of life happens when we let it, when we notice, when we stay open to whatever might exist outside of our preparation. And that's the part that I definitely need to work on is the noticing, I would say, because I have looked at life as a checklist a lot of times. And I don't know if it's because I just turned 44 and I'm like, wait, is this midlife? Like, am I in midlife right now? Like, it's just like, I feel like I just graduated college yesterday, but it's just more like if I am not noticing, if I am not approaching my life in this more compassionate, noticing way, like no one else is going to do it because the culture around me is going to keep saying, like, get it done, do your
Yeah.
list and everything.
Yeah.
So, what am I going to be looking back at in my life? Like, am I going to be looking back at like, we're at my funeral. They're like, well, Emily, she was so good at checking things off the list. She was
Nobody says
just,
that.
no,
I
no,
know. Nobody says
no,
that.
she was so great at planning meals.
Yeah.
And, no, no one's going to say that. They're going to say, like,
Yeah.
my mom noticed when I was sad. My mom asked me how I was. My mom, I always say I don't want my kids being like, my mom always used to tell me three little words, just a minute,
Mm.
like instead of I love you. So I think there's sort of the legacy aspect there too. Like this is helping us to focus on, yes, what matters most, but like working on those parts of ourselves that aren't necessarily celebrated because
Yeah,
of the culture around us,
that's right.
telling us more like to do, get it done, get it done. And my listeners are overwhelmed moms. They kind of don't know where to start. And I guess just to, sort of wrap up, if you had an overwhelmed mom coming to you and being like, okay, Kendra, I understand. I get it. I get the pyramid. And I know the base is supposed to be like living in the season and what matters most to me right now in the season. But I am so overwhelmed and it's so chaotic that the urgent is always what I'm dealing with. Like, how do I even know what's important in this season because it's just chaos? What would you say to someone that feels like they can't even get that foundation of the pyramid right because they're so not right, but they're so overwhelmed right now?
I was going to catch that word because that's, we
Hmm.
often talk in those kinds of things. Like,
Yeah.
I want to get this right. I need to
Hmm.
work on this. How can I make the most of this? And that's that greatness language coming in again. And so this is going to be the most, two of the most annoying answers to your question. No one wants either of these answers because you're like, tell me how,
Yeah.
tell me how. And the first thing is you're kind to yourself in the
Hmm.
overwhelm. Like you will not get more done by being mean, by being, well, you might at first, but then it's going to peter out and you're going to be like, man, this really sucks.
Hmm.
So it truly is about self-compassion and kindness and starting there. And I do think that, you know, when I wrote The Lazy Genius Way, I hadn't quite, you know, I hadn't walked through the door to Oz and seen all the color of like, dude, this world that we live in is really not for us. Good gracious. Like, this is not how I want to live. Like I knew it kind of intuitively. Like I sort of felt like something was not right, but I had not quite articulated it yet at that time. But when I wrote The Lazy Genius Way, the final of the 13 principles is be kind to yourself. And I think sometimes a lot of people, a lot of women and moms really struggle with that so much. You said that already. Like that's one that you really struggle with.
Hmm.
And I'm starting to realize that I think the reason, or one of the reasons that is because when we look at our lives, whether things are just constantly undone or cluttered or we're missing things or we just feel scattered and pulled in lots of directions all the time, we see that life as we're doing it wrong. And so kindness in that moment is can feel a little patronizing.
Hmm.
You know, you're like, okay, fine. I mean, I'm doing fine. It's fine. It's fine. Like it's not true kindness. It's sort of placating
Yeah.
the chaos in your own head and going like, okay, fine. Don't be mean. Don't be mean. Don't be mean. Um, but if you look at your overwhelm and your chaos and your fragmentation and your life, your season of life, which if you are a mom, I just am going to say you're overwhelmed. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter how many kids you have. It doesn't matter how old they are. Motherhood is overwhelming. It's overwhelming by nature, by definition. But if we are looking at that chaos through a lens of greatness, it means the chaos should not be there. It means the overwhelm should not be there. It means our fragmentation should not be there, that we should have things organized well enough that that shouldn't be the case. And I'm here to say that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
So if we shift, it doesn't mean that you can't, that it's like bad to organize your stuff or have a color coded to-do list or any of that. Like all of those things can be great. Those are tools. Those are neutral
Mm-hmm.
tools for whoever needs them in whatever season. But if you start with kind eyes to look at your chaotic, overwhelmed season of life through the lens of, I'm going to be here. I'm not doing anything wrong. This is all normal. In many ways, this is good. Good is here
Yeah.
right now. There's the L in plan. Every letter has three principles attached
Mm-hmm.
to it. And the three pin, I'm just going to read these as like, this is the thing. It's be kind and start small, which again are they're the two most annoying things. They're the two most annoying principles by a lot. Because you want it to be all fixed right now, but we
Mm-hmm.
don't need to fix it. Fixing your life is not on the table here. Your life is beautiful. You got a lot going on and it's full. And sometimes you're like, well, I just forgot that thing big time. Or we ran out of this, or my kid went to school with underwear I didn't realize he hadn't changed in 4 days. This is a problem. Like that happens, you guys.
Mm-hmm.
That happens. The best mothers, quote unquote, which isn't a thing, in your own head, their kids still drop a dirty diaper from the top of the stairs. Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So as kind of a closing of this, I suppose,
Mm-hmm.
the three principles for living in your season from the plan are: do not judge every day against your best day. Stop doing that. You might have had one day where you're like, you checked everything off and the kids took a nap at the same time and
Mm-hmm.
you made homemade dinner and the sun was shining and you lit a candle and you're just like feeling good. Listen, that was a great day. And I'm so glad you felt like yourself in it. You can also feel like yourself in a chaotic day.
Mm-hmm.
And that day is not the standard for every day that follows. Do not judge every day against your best day. Second principle: contentment is the antidote to optimization.
Mm-hmm.
Being content with where you are, with the chaos, with the overwhelm, not complacent, not giving up, but just being like, you know what? I'm here now. This is the season of life that I'm in, and it is wild. It is wild, and I am so tired. And also,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to optimize it. This is this can be good, which leads me to the third principle. Well, actually, no, that's from a different one. Good is here right now is a different principle. But
Mm-hmm.
the third one for live is you're allowed to care. This is not about giving up and just sort of drowning in your life because you don't feel like you have another option. You can care about certain parts of it that matter a lot to you through that lens of wholeness and integration and go, this really matters right now in this season. And it's good. It's a good and beautiful thing for me to put energy into this. But if I do, and when I do, that almost certainly means that there's not going to be energy for these other things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that it's okay, just okay, in like a settling stopgap, like, okay, fine, shrug way. That is wisdom. That is a wise way to live, to care about what you care about and to wisely go, this is not mine to do right now. It's definitely not mine to do well
Mm-hmm.
right now through the standard of greatness, especially.
Mm-hmm.
So for the overwhelmed, chaotic moms, which we kind of all are,
Yeah.
that your job is not to eliminate the chaos. It's to be grounded inside it. Those are two very different postures. And they lead to very different choices and very different days. And one is measured, one is not. One is just lived. So be kind. Stop measuring. start small where you are.
Mhm.
It's not very fun. I understand. It's not very exciting. It's not 3 steps. It is 3 things, but it's not 3 steps. But I promise you, it will make you feel lighter and more whole than any bit of trying
Yeah.
you could ever do.
Thank you. Oh, that was beautiful. And I was telling a woman in my community that I was talking to you today, and she goes, "That book is the ultimate permission slip."
I
All
love
capital
that.
letters, ultimate permission slip.
I
And I
love
was like,
that.
sometimes I feel with decluttering, I give permission slips like Oprah, like
Yeah.
you get a permission slip and you. So
That's
you
right.
can be like the Oprah of permission slips for time
That's amazing.
management.
I'll be the Oprah of anything.
I know,
That's
right?
great. That's great. I
Oh,
love it.
Kendra, thank you so much for this wonderful conversation. I am already feeling more grounded in my own chaos.
No,
So
I'm
thank
glad.
you.
I'm
And
glad.
please let everyone know where they can buy the book and the best way that they can connect with you if they want to learn more.
Yeah. So everything is at thelazygeniuscollective.com. It's on our website. So all three links to all 3 books and descriptions of what they are. The podcast, the Lazy Genius podcast, we have episodes that come out every Monday. The newsletter that you mentioned,
Mhm.
it's only once a month, but there's something I just really love writing that thing. It just feels really, I don't know, like personal and lighter and sometimes deeper. And again, I share all the book reviews of the books that I read. So, but everything, all of those links and everything is at
Yeah.
thelazygeniuscollective.com.
Awesome. Well, I will link to that in the show notes. Again, thank you so much, Kendra, for coming on the show. I've been trying not to fangirl this whole time. I think I did okay. So thanks again.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Emily.
If you like today's podcast, here's what you can do. Just take 30 seconds to leave me a review. I know you're a busy mama. You're overwhelmed, in fact. But 30 seconds of your day makes such an impact. I'll be blessed by your words. They'll definitely make my day. And who knows, you might be entered for this month's giveaway. In Apple Podcasts, scroll down to write a review. Thanks so much for your time. I'm so grateful for you.